Well, you won't believe your eyes. Is John Fetterman making more sense than all of the View panelists combined? I think that's what we saw last week when he completely blew Sunny Hostin's racially tinted and hyper-partisan talking points out of the water. You need to watch this for yourself because there's so much that I think it reveals.
Now, there are those on the left who feel like you have made a rightward shift recently, going to Mar-a-Lago, joining Truth Social, your positions on issues like immigration, fracking. What do you say to those who are now, in a sense, questioning your commitment to the Democratic Party?
So, rightward, that's just happened not to be true. I've been on record, too, saying I am not going to become a Republican. You know, although maybe some people might be happy on one side, but I would make a pretty terrible Republican because, you know, pro-choice, really strong immigration, pro-LGBTQ, you know, just pretty like, I don't think I'd be a good fit. So I'm not going to change my party. And if I am going to I'm going to show up. I'll give you the exclusive. Yeah. I can announce. So I can't keep chasing down every last thing that's online because they're just happen not to be true. And just look at my votes. Look at the things that I haven't changed in a way.
That's what the reasonable left was and could still be. John Fetterman still fits very neatly into the image of an old school Democrat, but he's just not buying into the false moral grandstanding that characterizes Sunny Hostin's far leftism. And did I hear that correctly? All that she has was his meeting with Trump at Mar-a-Lago or joining Truth Social to supposedly imply that John Fetterman has made a rightward shift. Guess who else is on Truth Social? The Kamala campaign itself, which had a pretty sizable presence on there as well with nearly 500,000 followers. And so did the person who's touted as next in line for Democrat leadership, Gavin Newsom, who even bragged about joining Truth Social on X. Not just that, even The View's fellow leftist media pundits on MSNBC, with Joe and Micah Brzezinski, made quite a splash in November by finally going to meet Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and just last month, we saw New York Mayor Eric Adams also get off his moral high horse and meet with the person he knows can't be avoided for the next 4 years as president. So what point was Sunny Hostin even trying to make here? But it gets worse. Listen to Ana Navarro almost talk down to the senator and make false presumptions about him.
You did get a lot of criticism for it from some people who thought you going to Mar-a-Lago gives cover to Trump by creating the solution that he's amenable to working with Democrats. I was very supportive of when people like Mitt Romney and Rob Portman worked with Joe Biden. So I understand the need for bipartisanship. I didn't love the optics of you going to Mar-a-Lago. He was going to, which is his palace. He was going to be in Washington a week later. But what was your goal? And do you feel ultimately you were successful?
Well, here's what happened. I was being lazy on the couch at like Friday night, and my team reached out saying, "Hey," and I don't know if this is like a trolling or a hoax, but they extended an invitation. You know, what do you think? I'm like, well, I mean, if they're playing it straight, then I think it's pretty reasonable to have a conversation. You know, inviting me to engage, and I visited it. So maybe some people would be critical of that, but you know, for me, engaging the president, I think when you're in this business, I mean, that's part of the job. Any more you would criticize Governor Newsom, that received the president there after the fires in California. They are going to find a way to work together. I mean, that's where we are. And I hope maybe you are watching are tired of just like the venom and the hate. And it's like, I'd like more bipartisan kinds of things. And you are going to agree with things and you're going to disagree on things. And I'm going to pick my fights.
The look on their faces is just priceless. It's the realization that someone from their own ideological bubble is refusing to follow them along the slippery slope to a bitter kind of far left and has just gotten off the moral high horse. And yet, here's what's sad. I think most of the entire past 3 months, and you realize that all you've seen from The View is the former even going as far as throwing their own electorate under the bus and calling them racists and misogynist for not voting exactly the way they wanted. Forget that. We saw Barack Obama blame young men for supposedly not wanting to vote for a female into office, and the likes of Sunny Hostin and Al Sharpton were even blaming some notion of racism in the Latino voter base for not voting an African American to power. If you thought the election loss would jolt them into listening to the pulse of the common man sentiment, you were wrong. But still, I save the best for last because this next moment from John Fetterman almost sent Sunny Hostin over the edge when he said the quiet part out loud about the web of Donald Trump's legal cases this past year.
I'm on record criticizing going after Hunter Biden, and I also agreed that the trial in this city, in New York, was politically motivated, that wouldn't otherwise have been prosecuted if it was someone else. And I've been very front and center in pardons. I chaired that process in Pennsylvania. I was all about delivering second chances, and I was very proud of that. And I think that's really the cornerstone of criminal justice reform is if you are following the rules and you've paid your debt, I do believe you do. I do believe there needs to be a path for redemption. And this process, whether Joe Biden or whether President Trump, I don't agree with many of those pardons, especially on the J6 ones. And I've called that out. I've been on record saying that that's just not true. If you're going to abuse the process, somebody that's been very committed as part of that, has made that part of my career. I think it's sad because it's been politicized. And I think, if anything, that might have set some things back because people assume now, depending on what team's in office, those are the people that get some redemption.
I just for clarification, did you mean that the 34-count case in which Donald Trump was found guilty of various financial crimes was politically motivated here in New York?
I found that when the judicial system gets weaponized and targeted political enemies for political gain, I think that's inappropriate, and I think that degrades our collective trust in this a very important institution, whether that's on a Democratic going after a Republican or a Republican going after a Democratic one. And I like to think I call it strikes and balls because the judicial system has to remain impartial. I mean, that's really the cornerstone of our society.
Seems like something everyone should be able to get behind, right? But the fact is, the last 2 years of the alleged lawfare against Donald Trump has eroded trust in the U.S. legal system. A Gallup poll in December revealed these startling statistics that just 35% of Americans today express a clear trust of the U.S. legal system and the Supreme Court, which is a dangerously low number. And that was always expected when the legal system became an unfortunate battleground for politics with things like the extended statute of limitations or bookkeeping misdemeanors that were turned into felonies in the New York hush money case that labeled him the convicted felon that The View loves to repeat. And something else they clearly can't let go is the race-tinted view of the world that we predictably saw more of when the conversation on the panel drifted to the deportation drive of illegal immigrants currently underway.
I to answer your question, which is this the immigration fix that this country wanted? Mm-hmm. I think absolutely there are certain people that wanted to see this kind of pain and destruction for a certain group or type of immigrant. Because if you look at the numbers, yes, the number of immigrants that come from Mexico or of Mexican-born are the largest. But the next largest are Asians. 28% of them come. I don't think they walk across the southern border. I think they come by plane. The next largest are Europeans. I don't think they walk either. I'm just saying immigrants, right?
Oh, not undocumented though.
A lot of them are undocumented, actually.
But that's not the stat for being.
But a lot
of them come by plane and then overstay their visas.
They overstay their visas. They overstay their visas, so they're undocumented. The Europeans that come here that overstay their visas are undocumented, but they don't come across the southern border. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a very clear message as to what this president wants the look of a criminal migrant to look like, what an undocumented migrant. And I think that's racist. And let me say just finally that they are also racially profiling in doing this. In Newark, New Jersey, a business venue on Thursday was raided, and among the citizens that they detained and questioned was a Puerto Rican man and a military vet. For the 50 million thousandth time, Puerto Ricans are Americans and disproportionately serve in the military. And so I say all of this to say that I am disappointed, disgusted, and saddened by what I'm seeing.
I love how Alyssa immediately corrected her on those false statistics, but it's too little when she's cornered on a panel like this Though I think it's the same thing we see when even an agreeable and center-left Democrat like John Fetterman is forced to fight assumptions against him here. But let me know what you thought about this, because it's certainly not a good look for The View, which is sounding more out of touch after the election than it ever has.